This video on how to play Peak Oil Profiteer. I'm Jordi Rodriguez from Two Tomatoes Games, and I will be hosting this video here on Tabletopia. I'm going to explain you the setup and the rules for for this brand new game. It's a standalone game set in the Peak Oil universe. In this game, the players are top managers from oil companies, and you have a very simple and easy goal, which is to get a lot of money. And how are you going to do that? Well, all players go to this country that we can see here on the screen. This country has oil, and players basically will try to drill that oil and sell it through these three ports and basically get a lot of money. But it's not going to be that easy because currently the corruption index of this country is very high. We can see that starts here at 93, and when it clocks in at 100%, the country, let's say, it will be a complete mess, and the companies will have to leave the country, and in that moment the game ends and the player with the most money will win the game. Also, to make things more interesting, this is not a normal country because it's currently undergoing a bit of a civil war, let's say. We have three different factions that we can see here. So we have the government, which is the brown faction. We have the National Liberation Front, which is the blue faction. And we have basically the guerrillas, which are the red faction. No? And these factions vie for the control of the country. And also each faction, as we can see here, has three leaders. Each faction has the same three leaders. No? This one with the military hat is the military leader. The sunglasses leader is the political leader, and the beard represents the religious leader of that faction. And these leaders are going to be very important, as we'll see throughout the rules explanation. So basically, to set up, what we're going to do is, well, this game plays from 1 to 5 players. In this video, I won't be covering the solo rules, okay? These solo rules can be, in fact, it's to use one of the companies as an automata, so you can use it if you're playing the game on your own, or if you're playing it with another player. I think that maybe also with when you play with 2 players, you can use that automated company. As you can see here, what we give to each player. Well, at setup, what we're going to do is give the elements to each player. So what we're going to give them is a deck of 5 action cards. I will explain those later. 2 drilling right pawns, which are these cylinders here. We give them 5 million. We give them a reminder card, and also each player gets one of those leaders here. One of those leaders here at random. And what else? Well, what we need to do is we put a troop. The troop is the cube of the corresponding faction on each of the starting positions of each faction. So as we can see, a brown cube here, a red cube here, and a blue cube here. We set the corruption at 93%. Well, we also have a die. I will explain later why we need it. And also we have this deck of blackmail cards. Basically, it's composed of 15 cards. These cards correspond to the leaders that we have here, and we'll explain their functioning later. So, well, basically, we're going to shuffle just to make things easier. I'm just going to keep the elements for one player here on screen. Sorry about that. I'm going to take the rest of the things out so that they don't annoy us, and like this, I can show you the components better. Also, well, how does the game end? We said that the game ends when the corruption reaches 100. And how is that going to happen? Well, that's going to be governed by these cards that are the event cards. That they always increase the corruption and might increase the corruption even more. Okay, I will go a bit into detail for that a bit later. Well, but let's show you a deck, the action card decks. They are all the same for each player, okay? And they're composed of 5 cards. with the 5 different actions. Peak Oil Profiteer at its core is an action selection, simultaneous action selection game, and it has board control and, well, I would say a nice and healthy dose of interaction. So here we have the cards, but we do need to do a final step in the preparation of the game. Is we have a pile of 7 events and 18 consultants. What we do, that I'm not going to do here because it's going to take us a bit more time, is we would divide we would shuffle, well, flip and shuffle the pile of the events, flip and shuffle the pile of consultants, then we would divide each pile into 2 separate piles, and then we would mix them. You know, that way we have a stacked deck, and then we will put the 2 decks, we would stack them on top here, okay? What I'm just going to do for ease in this video is I'm just going to shuffle everything, but you know that it's not like that. We would shuffle the 2 halves separately, okay? So, like this, okay? And I'm just going to put it here. This is very important, as you will see, okay? And to start with, we just flip the first card, okay? And we show it. Okay, so how do we play this game? So, well, we have a very nice reminder here that I'm going to zoom in so that you can follow. The game is played in rounds, and in each round, players, they will all play. They will all take their turn, okay? What do we do? First of all, we flip a contingency card. That's what we just did to start the game. You know, those are the contingency cards. So we flip them, we flip one and we put it in this space. This is going to be the card that is available for the turn. And the deck, it's very important. You see that here we have the player colors. Let me do a zoom. Here we have the player colors, and they are set in an order. So in this turn, white would be first, the white player would be first, the green player would be second, and then the purple player, and so on, okay? This is in case of 2 or more players taking the same action, okay, as you will see in a second, okay? Well, after we flip this contingency card, all players are going to choose an action card face down from their hand. Remember, this would be in my hand, okay? So I have the 5 cards in my hand. I would choose one, and I would let's make it so that you can see how this would be played. So I would actually have those in my hand. I will place them here, and let's say that, for example, in this turn I would like to do contingency, for example. So I would place this card face down, okay? And then I would wait until the other players all do the same. And once all players have done so, then we call the actions 1 to 5 in order. And on each action called, the players reveal their action cards and they take turns in the order established by the top contingency card. So for example, let's say that I chose networking, which, as you can see, it has a 1, so it's the first action to be played on every round. If there was another player who also played the contingency, we would look at this card and see which player goes first. In this case, since I'm the white player, I would be playing first, okay? But, like for example, next turn, I would be third player, you know? So it depends. This changes every turn, okay? Every round. And once we've done this, the round is over. Each player picks up their card back into their hand, so that you don't need to, the cards are not spent, or you don't need to alternate actions if you don't want to. Like every turn, at the end of every round, you take back the card that you played, okay? Also, it says here, on your turn. So on your turn is when you're actually taking the action for that round, okay? You can use either a blackmail card, or you can use the religious leader, okay? And then you resolve your action. So in the example that we were doing before, I was doing networking. If I happen to have, say, for example, this blackmail card, I could use it before doing my actual networking, okay? I will explain what those cards do in a bit. And if I had a religious leader, for example, this one, I could use it, okay? But it's always either or. Either I use my religious leader or I use a blackmail card, okay? So how are the blackmail cards used? Let me just delve into this and then I'm going to explain what do the different actions, what the different actions do, okay? You'll see that it's not very, very complicated. So the blackmail cards, as we said, we can use them at the start of your turn, so before taking your action for the turn, okay? And as we can see, these cards, they have, these cards, they have one of the leaders, okay? We can use them at the start of our turn, basically to take control of the leader that is depicted on that card. Let's say that I have this card at the start of my turn, and another player controls this leader, okay? So I could play that card and take control of that leader. However, in this case, when I'm using a blackmail card, maybe the controller of that leader has even a bigger blackmail for that leader, right? So if that player happened to have the same card, he could play it in that moment to basically cancel my card and he would keep that leader. Also, it's very handy because on each blackmail card, you can see the number of blackmail cards that are of that type in the deck, okay? And this is also noted on the leader token. So, as you will see, not all leaders are equally susceptible, let's say, to blackmail. Now, for example, the blue military leader, there's only one blackmail card on the deck, but it's for the guerrillas and the government military leaders, there's three. No? So they are more susceptible to blackmail. And while we're at it, I'm going to explain also how to use the military, the religious leader. So at the start of your turn, if you have a religious leader, basically you can give it back to the supply, okay, to take another leader of the same faction. It doesn't matter what player controls that leader. So for example, let's say that I have this religious leader and another player has the blue military leader. So at the beginning of my action, I could discard this and give it back to the supply to take this political leader. Note that the player that controlled this blue political leader, he couldn't use a blackmail card because blackmail cards are, you can only use them in defense when you are being attacked, let's say, by a blackmail card, okay? This using of the religious leader basically means that the current leader, the leader that you're taking, in this case the political leader, falls in disgrace, let's say, and the religious leader becomes that leader, no? The new leader. So that's what it means. Okay, so we explained what we can do before taking our action, and now we're going to go through the actions one by one and explain them real quick, okay? So also here on Tabletopia and in the final game, you will have, if you flip the reminder card, you have a very handy reminder of what the actions do. Okay, so we're going to go on networking, okay? Networking, as we said, is the first action that is called on every round, okay? On networking, what you're going to do is, first, you draw a blackmail card, so one of those cards that have the leaders depicted in them, okay? And then you can bribe a leader. How do you bribe a leader? Well, this takes us to this very interesting part of the board. Here you can see, well, we have this basically a matrix that has all the information for costs and rewards in the game, okay? and also related to the different factions. For example, when I want to bribe a leader, in this, I just need to look at the faction of that leader. Okay, let's say that I would bribe a red leader, and I cross this line, the bribe leader line, with the column of the last cube of that faction, in this case here. So in this case I would need to pay 1 million. How do I pay how do I pay when I bribe? If I bribe a leader that is uncontrolled, that is a leader that is still in the common pool here, I would pay half of what is indicated on this line. So in this case I would have to pay 500,000. It's always rounded up, so I would pay 1 million, but I would pay it to the bank. Okay. However, if I bribe a leader that is controlled by another player, let's say that I want this political leader that is controlled by another player, then I would go here too, and I would have to pay the amount, but I pay it to that player. Okay, so I reduce 1 million, I would give that player 1 million, and he would give me this leader. Okay, again, you cannot use blackmail cards to protect them against bribery, okay, because are different things. Blackmail card only cancel other blackmail cards. And you say, Jordi, you're talking about a lot about leaders. Why are they important? Well, I've already shown you the ability of the religious leader, that he can convert into any of the other leaders of that faction, but we'll see the advantages of having political and military leaders, and also any type of leader of a faction in a tiny bit, okay? So remember, for networking, first we draw a blackmail card. Remember, you cannot use it that turn because blackmail cards, you can only use one at the start of your turn. Then you bribe a leader, okay? And note that, for example, if this wasn't here, then I would need to, and I bribe that leader from another player, I would need to pay 2 million to that leader, to that player, and then I would need to play 3, and so on. Okay, so basically, the more depleted the track of a faction is, the more difficult it is to bribe a leader of that faction. Okay, let's go to the second action. So the second action is sell weapons, okay? And as we can see, it already tells us in the card that we need a leader, okay? So how does the sell weapons work? In fact, we need a leader, okay? Whenever we are selling weapons, we need to choose one of the factions, okay? But we need to have at least one leader of that faction. For example, currently in this situation, I could sell weapons to the National Liberation Front or to the guerrillas, but I couldn't sell any weapons to the government, which is the brown faction, because I don't control any leader of that faction. Well, let's go for the example, and I would like to sell to the guerrillas faction, for example. So again, I would come here to this chart, okay, and I see that sell weapons currently to this faction, it gives me 6 million, okay, because we have a 6 here that is corresponding to the to this last cube. If this cube was already not here, like it will be in the board, as we'll see, it would give me only 5 million. But in this case, the cube is here, I'm selling weapons, so I would automatically get 6 million, no? So I would up my money by 6. Then I take this cube and I have to place it somewhere in the board in a region that is already controlled by the guerrilla faction. In this case, there's only this region, okay? And then we roll the die to see where this new troop that we've given arms to will go. So we can see that here we roll the die, and we roll a 1. So as you can see here, I'll do a bit more zoom, each region has number die here, and that's the direction that it's taking according to the die. So we roll the 1, so this cube would move here, okay? What happens if we roll a 6, because you'll see that there's no 6 here in the board. Well, if we roll the 6, then we would choose the direction in which the troop moves. Also, if the troop can never go into a region that is controlled already by that faction. So imagine that we sold weapons here, we rolled a 1, we couldn't go here, so automatically this troop would go here. And what happens now? Let's say that we sold weapons here and we rolled a 1 again, so this troop would move here. Well, since now we have troops of two different factions in the same region, they obviously fight, because remember that this is a civil war, and they go back to their corresponding tracks. Okay? Boop, boop. We can see that now the government doesn't have any troop on the board. So whenever we sell weapons to that faction, it would automatically be placed in like their base region. Okay? So that's selling weapons. Now we go. Third action would be to buy drilling rights. Again, as we see here, we need a leader. Okay? So when we buy drilling rights, what we need to do is we need to select a region that is controlled by one of these three factions, and we need to control at least one leader of that faction. Okay, and obviously the region has to contain an oil field. So for example, let's say that the situation is like this, and it's my turn and I want to buy drilling rights. In this case, well, let me do a better example like this. For example, in this case, I couldn't buy the drilling rights on this central region, okay, because I do not have any leader from the government. However, I could buy the drilling rights from here, or I could buy the drilling rights from this other region, because I control a leader of the blue faction and a leader of the red faction. How much do I have to pay? Well, it depends. If I happen to have the corresponding political leader, he's a friend of mine, so I don't have to pay anything. And I would directly place my drilling rights pawn on the oil field that I decided. No, in this case I could do both, but okay, let's say that I have this other leader. Okay. And let's say that I want to buy these drilling rights here, okay? So I would go again to the chart here, and we see that to buy the drilling rights for this blue faction, it cost me 4, so I would pay 4, okay? Remember that if you have the matching political leader, the rights are free, completely free. Okay, so in this example, if I wanted to pay I wanted to buy the blue rights, I would lower my money by 4 million, and I would place my drilling rights pawn, sorry, on that oil field. Okay. And then another action that you can do is sell oil. Okay. As you can see, this one doesn't need a leader, but you do need to have some drilling rights, okay, to be able to sell the oil from that drilling rights, okay? So basically, when we sell oil, we have to have a pawn, okay, in this case I have it here, and we have to choose one pipeline. In this case, I could only sell through this pipeline, okay, because we always sell it through the ports, okay? But let's say that I had it here, for example, okay? Then I could choose this port or this port, okay, because as you can see, there's these two pipelines, right? How much money am I going to get? Well, again, it depends on this chart. And to check the chart, we're going to look at who controls the port, okay? So in this example, if I went through this, the port is controlled by the government, so I would come here and look at the chart, and the chart says that I would get 33 million, okay, by selling this. If I sold on this port that it's not controlled by anybody, I would only get 15 million. And this also happens when the place that you're selling from is not controlled by anybody. So let's say that, for example, I had these drilling rights. It doesn't matter if I sell it here or here, I would only get 50 million because the oil field region is currently uncontrolled. And in this action is where the military leader comes in, okay? The player that controls the military leader of the port that you're selling through, in this case, the government military leader, is going to steal 10 million from whatever you get. So in this case, like if I had this, I could sell on this port, but then the player controlling the military leader, I would get 33 million, as we said, but of those 33 million, I would have to pay that player 10 million. Or I could go on this port here, and I would only get 15 million, but that player, no player would be able to steal from me since this port is uncontrolled, okay? Thus, it's not aligned with any military leader. Okay, so, and now we get to do the last and final action, so it is contingency. So, when we do contingency, we basically take the first card that is available here on this discard pile, okay? It can be a consultant. I'm showing you one here. There's many different consultants. Each one has a unique and special effect, and you get to keep it for the rest of the game, okay? So for example, if I take this guy, if I did the contingency, I would take this guy. Note that if multiple players do contingency, it might happen that there's players that don't have a card to pick. In this case, as it's written on the board, they would take automatically 5 million, okay? For example, let's look at this consultant. If you have this consultant, you pick your action for the round last, and you pick under the action card chosen by one of the other players first, okay? But we have a lot of different consultants, and they can help you do different strategies, no? Like, for example, this guy, the transport expert. When you sell oil, you can sail to in any oil port, disregarding the pipeline, no? Which is something that could be cool, okay? And let's see if we can find an event. Well, you can see there's a lot of consultants. Okay, so here, for example, we have an event, no? Events, as I said, whenever they are revealed for the turn, we do this lower part here. They always increase the corruption, okay? In this case, it has another effect. And then if somebody does contingency on that turn, okay, is going to do the top part of this event, and then the event is discarded, okay? There's only one player who gets to do the card, okay? So basically, I think I've gone over everything. I don't know. Yeah, I think that should be everything. Quick recap, okay? Very easy. On each round, as we can see here, first we flip the contingency card, which reveals the new consultant for the turn, and it reveals the turn order, okay? Then each player plays an action card face down, and then when all players have played their card face down, we call the actions 1 to 5 in order, okay? Starting with networking and finishing with contingency. We reveal as we go through the actions, and if more than one player have chosen the same action, here we have the turn order, okay, on the back of this card. And as we said, the game ends when the corruption reaches 100%. It's at the end of that round, okay? And whoever, the player that has the more money, will win the game. And well, okay, thank you. It's been many thanks for watching this video. I hope that everything is clear. You can play, as you can see, you can access the mod on Tabletopia, okay? I didn't go exactly through all the rules, okay? And as I said, I didn't explain the solo rules. In case you were wondering, these cards, the icons here on the bottom, they are related to the solo mode, okay? As you can see, okay? Because it changes, the factions are asymmetric that way. And well, I hope that you liked the video. You know that you can play it on Tabletopia anytime. Also, just to remind you that there's a feedback form. If you want to leave us feedback on the game as currently is, just feel free, and we'll be very happy to receive your feedback. Okay, so many thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.